Hello all, and welcome to our biweekly webinar for November 2nd. I cannot believe that we're actually into November already. I hope that you are like me and maybe weaning yourself off of the constant supply of sugar that you've been living off of for the last week, and that you're feeling very, very nice and not like you ate a bag of powdered donuts like I did this morning. So happy November. We are here for our regularly scheduled All In for Kansas Kids biweekly webinar. Today's schedule, we'll go through just general updates. So talk about what's going on in the early childhood infrastructure, some training opportunities, as well as maybe conference opportunities. And then we have a presentation from Michelle Gilbert from Child Care Aware of Eastern Kansas. And she's going to be telling us about the Shawnee County Early Childhood Workforce Training Center. So really, really great, an exciting opportunity for Shawnee County. Really anything that's encouraging that strengthening of the pipeline right now for our early childhood workforce is so crucial. So excited to hear about their experiences, kind of what's gone well and things they've learned along the way. So we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but just want to make sure everybody is aware. So a partnership between DCF, Department for Children and Families, and then the Kansas Department for Health and Environment has addressed, they're working to address one of the barriers that we know is really difficult for childcare providers, and that's the fingerprinting process when a provider is going into employment. So they were able to put together a small pilot project in partnership with the KBI, and they've launched the live scan, which is a digital fingerprinting machine. And so these live scan machines are now available for fingerprinting for childcare providers. And DCF staff are actually willing to come to you. So the mobile fingerprinting unit is more than willing to come to you if you have 10 people that are needing to get fingerprinted, and then up to 60 people per day. So they will travel to you if you are within an hour of Wichita, Topeka, Manhattan, or Hutchinson. So really great, especially for those centers maybe that have a few people that need to be fingerprinted at the same time, or maybe even collaborate with other centers in your community or other programs in your community. So really excited to see how this program expands, and just happy that this barrier has hopefully been at least partially removed for our providers. So all right, just a quick update on the Child Care Workforce Appreciation Bonuses. So as you all know, part of the relief funding that state of Kansas got went towards one-time workforce bonuses for child care providers. So that's about 20,000 eligible child care staff across Kansas. And that's not just teachers and directors. We're currently in the application period for school age and drop-in programs. So we've gone through some of the other early childhood environments. If you have not already, please make sure that your information is up to date in the, I believe it's the Child Care Aware system, because if it is not, it will cause a delay in your payment. And we have heard that these payments, there's some glitches in the process, and so it's taken a little bit longer than everybody was hoping, but I know that they appreciate your patience in getting these payments out. It's a huge lift. So we'll continue to update you about this program as it moves on. We also have some safety webinar opportunities, both for Kansas Head Start Association members and non-members. So there's a difference in fee if you're a member versus a non-member. But topics that are going to be covered are de-escalation, home visiting safety, and then emergency preparedness and crisis communications. So again, different fees there for whether or not you're a KHSA member or member program. And these are all approved for KDHE clock hours if you still need to get those. So we are coming up this weekend for the Parent Leadership Conference that's in Topeka. It's at Hotel Topeka, which used to be the Capitol Plaza Hotel downtown over by the Expo Center. I'm sorry, the Stormont Vale Event Center. So that's going to be going on this weekend. Pam Noble has been on before to talk about what a wonderful opportunity this is. We know that there's going to be opportunities for engagement at the family level, at the child level, and then also there's some adolescent specific activities, which is really exciting. Just as an aside, I believe that KCSL was able to provide like a decent number of scholarships for families that were traveling out of, I think it was over an hour outside of the Topeka area. So just a great equity effort there, and just super exciting to see that those provisions were made for families so that, you know, we can get as many families as possible together and learn from these great collaborative offerings. So that's going to be this weekend, the 4th and the 5th here in Topeka. And then there's also the 41st annual Kansas Division for Early Childhood Conference. And that's going to be in Wichita. So that's February 22nd to the 24th. We do not have the registration links yet, but we will share them once we start getting them. I assume that they will also show up first in that newsletter, the All In for Kansas Kids newsletter. So just keep an eye out for that. We also have standards of quality for family strengthening and support. I believe this is a training opportunity. If you remember, a few webinars ago, we had staff come on and talk about the Kansas Family Support Network. And so this is that standards training that she was referencing. But specifically the standards of quality, I believe, that contribute to especially establishing like those family resource centers. So that was this is the specific training opportunity that we knew was going to become available. And then Kansas Parents as Teachers as well has some really great professional development for Kansas Parents as Teachers members, including ACEs or positive supports. Impact on family well-being. So check those out if that's an association that you're part of. We also have some offerings from GREENBUSH. So that includes prevention of substance abuse, and then understanding the brain helps you help your community, as well as early childhood providers and educators monthly forums. So the forums are going to be the dates listed, and then those professional development offerings are also available. We also just got notified that they're hosting GreenBush is hosting two child-led learning and risky play events, and that's November 28th is in Girard, Kansas, and then December 12th is in Lawrence, Kansas. So this is free for SLS members, and then there's a fee for non-members. So this is a pretty cool opportunity. If you're in the area, check it out. If you have questions, I believe that you can get in touch with this Andrea Scott that's listed on the flyer. And then Megan, do you mind just putting that email address in the, thank you. So really kind of a cool, kind of a unique thing, especially in the world of pandemic and not in-person opportunities. Okay, last update that we have for you, and this is very, very important. So the workforce survey is out. If you're not familiar with the annual statewide needs assessment, it is put together by Casito, and it directly informs where investments are made for professional development opportunities. So one of the domains that it gathers information about is types of training that providers are interested in, trying to learn more about, you know, the training that's really beneficial and impactful, maybe versus training opportunities that aren't as meaningful anymore. So this workforce survey and the annual statewide needs assessment is a really, really comprehensive way that we try and look at our system. And so it's very important that we get a high number of responses. There's also an incentive where you can be entered to win a gift card. I will say that the entirety of the survey is anonymous. Once you get to the end, though, there's a place that you can put your information in to get, if you end up winning one of those incentives. So it is anonymous, but for the purpose of the incentive, it's separate. So there's also materials available in English and Spanish. So if you have not taken this statewide needs assessment survey yet, and you work in an early childhood setting that provides care to children 0 to 12, you are eligible, and I know they would really appreciate hearing your voice. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and introduce Michelle Gilbert and let her take it from here.
All right, well, thank you so much for allowing me to be here today on behalf of our agency. So I'm Michelle Gilbert, and I'm a provider services manager for Child Care Aware of Eastern Kansas and Topeka in the Child Care Aware network. We're Region 3, and so we cover 33 counties in the eastern part of the state. This project that I'm going to share a little bit about today is kind of unique in that a lot of times I think we hear presentations when things have been wildly successful, and that's not this. So we're sharing information today because we feel like this has been a really good learning opportunity. We feel like it is a good model and that there have been successes, but there have also been some challenges. So we're sharing not only this model, but also opening the door for feedback, because this project was funded through PDG funds. And so we know that we have a limited amount of time until the grant ends in April. And we're not stopping. We're still going to hit we're trying to keep hitting the ground running through the end of the grant. And so we know there may be some things that this group thinks, hey, have you tried this? And so we're very open to feedback as well. So I am a provider services manager. That means that I have been kind of the supervisor over this project, but we were hoping that our early childhood workforce training center coordinator, Betsy Litcher, could be here today. She also serves as a full-time center director, and staffing prevented her from being here today. So I'll do my best to share. So, Hannah, you can change the slide, please. So as Hannah said, this vision was to create a pipeline of new early childhood professionals, and it was limited to Shawnee County. So this was a very focused project. One of the things that which I know is not unique, but one of the things that we have been experiencing in Shawnee County is a lot of established childcare programs have closed classrooms, not because they don't have children on waiting lists, but because they don't have enough staff to have the classrooms open. And so the idea behind this project was to try to generate an excitement around early childhood and generate new early childhood professionals. We can move forward. So the way that we started this project was with a focus group, and it was open to any director in Shawnee County. We just put kind of an open call out and asked for anybody who was interested in being part of a little bit of a steering group that would help guide the project. So this was before any decisions were made at all. It was just a dream at that point. And we met together several times, and directors gave input on virtually every step of this process. They helped design what the program should include, what it shouldn't include, what would be helpful, even to the point of helping with hiring the coordinator, those kinds of things. So directors were very, very involved in the process. And I should also just kind of take a step back and say that while we totally 100% recognize that the early childhood crisis and is not limited to center-based care, that is not at all. But this project, this specific project, was focusing on center-based care and increasing workers in center-based care. So we have other opportunities across the state for supporting the development of family child care, but this project was specifically focused on center-based care. And one of the real dreams of the directors group was to create not only a pipeline of new early childhood professionals, but that they would be work ready. And we had a lot of discussion early on about what work ready really meant, and that it didn't just mean that they had gone through orientation and could cross off the boxes, but that it was really important to the directors that the people that came in actually had some experience beyond just getting the initial training, that they had been able to interact with children in a supervised kind of way and get feedback. And so that was all included in the development of this program. The flip side of that was that knowing that it had to happen in a pretty condensed timeline, that people couldn't spend, a long months getting work ready either, especially since they weren't being paid for this time. Okay, we could move forward. So we did hire Betsy Litcher, who again is a center director in Topeka. So she's a part-time contracted employee, and she's the workforce early childhood workforce training center coordinator. And so the directors group was involved in creating questions for the interview, what they saw as the goals of the coordinator, what that coordinator needed to be able to do to help support a work-ready workforce. And we even had some of the directors that were in the steering group, they served on the interview process. And we actually had a really nice slate of candidates for the position. So that was nice to have many good options. And then one of the things that had to happen early on was that we developed the training part of this program. So we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what the program includes here in just a second, but part of it was the training part. And so we again involved the directors group in having conversation about, if we look beyond the required health and safety aspects for an initial provider, what are those extra things that you would want a new employee to have in terms of training? And so they helped with the generating of what those topics would be. And then we had to get that, the training piece submitted for approval. And I'll stop right now and just see if anyone has any questions in the chat or otherwise before we move forward. Okay, we can move forward then.
Yep, so I was just checking the chat real quick. I don't see anything, but I actually did have a question I was writing.
Okay.
What were some of the things that the directors said would be helpful extras as part of that professional development?
We're going to see that next, I believe.
Yay! Awesome.
Or coming right up anyway. Okay, so yes. So the training aspect of this program involves participants receive 27 hours of approved professional development, and it does include all of the required health and safety topics. So from a licensing standpoint, that may, they received the training that they needed to be work ready in that regard. But the directors really said that there were a couple of key areas. One is working with families, understanding what it means to support a diverse family base. How do you communicate with families? And that I think sometimes the directors just shared that sometimes they were feeling like people come to the work with the idea that they're going to be only working with young children, and then it's a surprise to find out that they have families that come with them, and that's part of the work as well. And so there's a section of the training that does cover working with families. We also felt that it was very important to include part of the training on anti-bias practices and what it means to be culturally responsible and responsive. And so there is a section on equitable practices in early childhood and what that looks like. Even though it is child development is spelled out in the required coursework, we did include a piece on that goes into an expanded look on infant toddler care and what responsive caregiving looks like, because that isn't always as defined. And then the last area that is included is a section on what it means to do developmentally appropriate planning. So looking at how do you individualize experiences for young children? How do you meet children where they are and scaffold their learning based on where they are developmentally and those kinds of things. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in just a minute, but part of the program is also a built-in piece where there's mentoring and coaching support. And so by design, one of the things that we did with this project was to kind of alternate so that people are getting a little bit of professional development, a little bit of an opportunity to have some hands-on practice, and then to come back and reflect on that practice with the group and with Betsy, the coordinator. And developmentally appropriate planning is one of those key areas. Okay. In addition to the 27 hours of professional development, they also get CPR and first aid. And I should mention this is all at no cost. The participants were able to access this program at no cost. We initially thought that there was going to be a small fee, a nominal fee for this, just to hopefully increase buy-in, but we decided early on that we were just going to remove that barrier. So there has been no cost. They also get their background check done. They have access. If somebody already has a current health assessment, we don't require, that would count to work in a child care program. We don't require them to go get a separate one. But if someone needs a TB test and health assessment, that can be covered as well. And there's time built into the program for them to do that. One of our learning lessons early on with our first round, one of our learning lessons was we had taken into account needing to do the fingerprinting and background check the very first day of the program, but we really hadn't considered, we were thinking that we would put the time for the students to get their health assessment and TB test towards the end of the program. And then it was like, oh no, if we want them to really be considered work ready when they graduate, we have to do that earlier on so that they have time to have the TB test read and that kind of thing. So that was a learning lesson. Built into the program, they have a minimum of 5 observations in childcare programs in licensed facilities. I say a minimum. One of the things that we really were trying to do is go above what would be the licensing requirement. And so we built in a minimum of 5 2.5-hour observations with the follow-up support. But the way that the program was developed, we actually have it set so they have 8 observations, and there's flexibility in that they have to do the first observation that everyone does is an observation after they take child abuse and neglect and safe sleep. We have them observe a nap time situation in an infant or toddler classroom. Everybody does at least one additional observation in an infant or toddler classroom and in a preschool classroom. And we do have them observe at a mealtime after they have had some training around the health and safety aspects of mealtime. Then they observe in a classroom at that time. After they have met kind of the required observations, we do give some flexibility. So if somebody, and keeping in mind that most of the people that have come to this project have no background in early childhood at all, we wanted to allow some flexibility so that if somebody observed in an infant or toddler classroom and then felt like, oh gosh, that is not the place for me, they want to do their remaining observations more in a preschool classroom because that felt more comfortable to them, or vice versa. We wanted to allow some flexibility. And then built into the project is that they have ongoing availability. So Betsy, the coordinator, she works with them throughout the course of the program, but then they have ongoing support for a year that they can contact her for career kind of guidance, support, coaching, and encouragement. She helps if needed. She helps at the end of the program. People get connected and placed in a program if they don't already. What we have kind of found is that most of the time people are kind of coming with the goal of they already have kind of a job in mind when they're coming, but if they need some kind of a support like that, they get that. Part of the project is that they do, at the end of the program, they do get to do kind of mock interviews with directors that come in. They have a session with Betsy that talks about creating a resume, interviewing skills, those kinds of things. That's not part of the licensed hours. That's not part of the training hours. It's just part of the mentoring coaching process. And then have a group of directors, which most of the directors that have been involved in the mock interviews have been the same directors that were very instrumental in the steering process. So they've been connected throughout the project. But that has been kind of a nice little added, I guess, bonus in terms of helping people feel more confident about starting a job too. And then our agency does have a really robust lending library that has totes that are available for checkout. And so all of the participants get a free membership to the lending library so that they have access to resources to help with curriculum planning as well. Okay, so that's all of the really the good part. The challenge really has been recruitment, to be honest with you. And I think we have been all around the map on why it has been so difficult. I'm going to share with you in just a minute some of the things that we have tried. But I guess to frame this up, the project is a 2-week project. So they get everything that I just shared with you in a 2-week time frame. So they have to commit to 2 weeks of time to be working towards this new career in early childhood. So it's pretty much full time during that 2-week period of time. There is not pay for people during that time period. So of course that is a challenge. We did have support from the Topeka Chamber that if that was a barrier for someone, that there might be that option. We've never had anybody that expressed that barrier, so we haven't actually utilized that. But we do have the ability to offer childcare for, so if we had a person who wanted to go through the program, but they needed childcare for their own child or children, we do have provisions for that to get childcare for them during the time period of the program. So that barrier was removed. But we just flat out have not had great success at recruiting. So our numbers have not been nearly as great as we had hoped. Going in, we had initially hoped that we would be able to have 50 new early childhood professionals, which again, that's kind of a lofty goal. We were hoping to have 50 participants in a 1-year time, and that has not happened. So we can move to the next slide. This is the part that I wish Betsy was here for, because I will not be able to speak with her heart on this. She has really done so much recruiting for this project. Obviously, you can see on the slide, we've tried the traditional routes of using social media, been on the website. She's done several TV spots locally to try to generate interest, participated in both local and she's done both local and statewide job fairs. She has gone out to different networking groups and shared information. She's worked directly with DCF and the job placement kind of services and a local job placement temporary job organization to provide information. And then the directors that were involved in the planning have been some of our best recruiters, because of course it's in their best interest as well to have people go through the program. So they've tried really hard as well. One of the limitations, and I'm sure probably everyone on this call can relate to this, one of the limitations has been that if you are a director and you need a staff person, you need them right then. And so waiting for them to go through a 2-week training period that isn't happening, just on demand, is also a part of the challenge. So I do see some questions coming in, and I promise we will get to those answers. I'm going to go ahead and just move us forward real quick, and then we'll come back. I just want to tell you what the next part of our plan is. So knowing the limitations that we have had, and knowing that there is an end to the funding in sight, we're trying to do something different. So in January, we're going to try a blended model. We're not calling it a hybrid model because it's not an either or situation. We're going to do a blended model where there will still be a day at the beginning of the program where it has to be in person, because we have to get them set up with the fingerprinting and the background check and the health assessment, that kind of stuff. But we're going to try doing the coursework virtually in the evenings. It's going to space it out a little bit farther. So instead of having 2 weeks, it's going to take 3 weeks, because we're doing the coursework in the evenings. And then they'll have kind of an opportunity to create an individualized plan for how their observations are going to look. So the goal with that is, initially, the idea was to hit people that were looking for a new career option. And so this is perhaps, we hope, going to speak more to people that are currently working, and maybe would be able to do the coursework in the evening and still balance having a current job. So now I'm open to questions, and I'll do my best. Betsy may be better at answering some things. I may have to do follow-up.
Let's do it this way. So I've got a few to get through in the chat, and then
Okay.
from there, people just feel free to raise your hand and I can acknowledge you in order.
And you can take the PowerPoint down too if you want to, Hannah. That's fine if it seems like it would increase.
So we can see each other's faces.
Right.
Okay, so we have a question from Anel. She says, what have your numbers been?
So the largest group that we've had go through at one time is 2 students. So.
And then are you able to speak to retention? So those people that were able to go through, what's that looking like?
So that's the positive thing. Everybody that has gone through the program is currently working. So that's a positive. We feel good about that. In fact, everybody that has gone through has had a job right away. So that, again, that's positive. And Betsy, our very first graduate, Betsy has really helped her. She set the goal early on that she wanted to earn her CDA. And then she started working, and she had no early childhood background at all. And so going in, when she finished the program, she said, that's what I want to do. I want to get my CDA. And then she started working, and she was like, maybe I need to wait just a little bit, but she's still having that regular. Betsy meets with her monthly to have kind of some career conversations. And so she was our very first person. So we've done the program just for one participant even. So one by one.
There's also a question that says, have you tried high school CTE programs, taking it to high schools and offering students to take it over the summer? Could get some results.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So yes, we have. And here it's because this is Shawnee County specific. We do have Washburn Tech here in Shawnee County. And so one of our really intentional things was not to duplicate things that Washburn Tech was doing, and to not detract from their student base. So their early childhood educator is part of our steering group. And so she has been helpful in being a bridge. Like if there are students that are in high school that might be a really good fit for this project, they need to get going right away, but then they want the more long-term piece as well. We have served some of the same students, actually. If that.
We have a couple comments about, well, just people like really, kudos. But that the opportunity to do the coursework in the evenings could be a good model. That this could be a great opportunity for centers that are opening and onboarding. I have a question from Rich. I think that the gist of it is the wage scale, the existing wage scale for this workforce prohibiting people from being interested. So essentially, the fact that they hit that ceiling so quickly.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that's a consideration for sure. And I mean, I will say that has not been a contributing factor from what, when we have had conversations with, and when I say we, I mean Betsy, when we have had conversations with people that have expressed interest but not followed through and and taken the program, the salary has not come up as a barrier. I think the primary things that and again, she would probably be better at speaking to this, but the primary things that have come up, we have had more than a handful of people that have expressed interest and then determined that they just weren't ready to, they were still actively at home with children and weren't ready to enter the workforce. And so that has, it seemed like a good touch point. And then they just decided it wasn't the right time for them. There have been a couple of situations where they have expressed interest in this program. And then as Betsy has visited with them, we've determined that they were really interested in doing family childcare, not working in a center. And so then she's been able to make kind of that soft pass off to help get that process started so that they still have that opportunity.
So in those cases, I mean, I think at least to me, like one of the biggest benefits would be the 27 hours of professional development. I mean, especially for a family childcare provider, because you, the independent person, is going to have to carry a certain amount of licensing hours every year, right? Compared to being a part of a center as staff. So to me, that feels like just the ability to get all of those professional learning hours in a condensed section of time, in addition to the coaching and the mentoring, could still contribute to creating a really great family childcare provider? Or is it they have to be willing to work in a center to be eligible?
So yeah, that's a really good question, Hannah. So one of the things that when we created the professional development for this project, we did it based on center-based regulations. So all of the courses are following the center-based regulations. And so some of the, a lot of it is very much the same, but some of the pieces around supervision and things like that are different. And the tone of the course work was developed as for center-based care. So it would require a bit of adjusting, to be honest. We did talk about that as a consideration at one point in time, but that was not, I don't know, that was not a direction the group really wanted to go.
That's fair.
Because of the amount of, I think because really the amount of time that was put into the development of the coursework.
Mm-hmm. Logan?
I was gonna mention, I was on a road trip last week where we had Center Director Tyrone Burke out of Junction City bring up an idea very similar to this concept of like, we need to have like a boot camp for providers where they can become work ready and getting out into the field. So I think it's a really cool opportunity. And I guess my question would be, how do you think other communities can scale, kind of like implement your type of program, and what kind of funding do you think exists currently to kind of make that happen? Or what funding do you think could exist to help support the creation of that kind of boot camp in other communities?
So I absolutely cannot speak to the funding opportunity. That's not my wheelhouse, but I will say that we are very open and willing to share our project concept and the model that we developed with, and we've shared it with several other communities and folks already, and we're very happy to share that model with anybody, and it spells out everything that is included in what we did. And again, not to make that a limiting thing, but maybe a jumping off point for someone else.
So the only constructive thing that I might be able to suggest, I don't know, are there any large centers in the area that consistently have staffing needs that could actually partner with and say, you know, we're going to offer a bonus. You essentially have a job whenever you get through this, and actually match them before they get through the 2 weeks. So that way they're walking directly into a job, and there's kind of that partnership between the private center and the pipeline.
That's a really great question, Hannah. So we actually, I mean, we have, because of the way that the project was started, and we have that really good support and collaboration with the directors, we actually have had directors that have said, I've got somebody, I want to hire them, you know, I need, and so they have, you know, had that kind of verbal arrangement. It gets really tricky from a wage and hour standpoint that they can't officially hire, you know, they can't hire someone contingent upon completing. They would have to go ahead and hire them without having completed the project, and then that seems risky to them. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think I just meant more if you have a somewhat, maybe hopefully steady supply of candidates, and then you have a place that's always going to need them just to
Right.
feed them, and
Yeah.
then use those programs to either put up put up something that's that financial reward at the end, since they aren't being paid. But I mean, this is incredible though, truly.
And we have had, honestly, we have had, the directors have been our best recruiters, really, because they want they want it to be successful too. So they have been great about sending people. And we have had directors that have offered, like they've offered to help remove barriers for people to make it happen if there was anything. That's how the childcare situation actually came about, is that we had some of the directors that said we would be willing to take take a student's children as drop-in care if that's a barrier for them. So that was how that was born.
Wow, it's pretty incredible. Well, I don't see anything else in the chat. So I'm going to slowly shift back to my other deck if I can, but this just sounds amazing. So super excited and proud and happy for you guys. And I hope that you don't get discouraged, because these are all of the key pieces, right? High quality professional development, the coaching, the mentoring, having all of those key supports, and in a condensed amount of time, is very considerate for the employee. So I don't know, I love this. I'm, a little sad to hear that it's not going as intended, but I think that's more representative of just our workforce and just the state of things, and certainly not the effort or the love that you all have put into this.
And like I said, we're certainly not giving up. That's why we're going to try the blended model and see if it has a better impact. And I really appreciate not only everyone's time, but thanks for your thoughts and ideas. And I did put my email in the chat, and if anybody wants the model, we're happy to share.
Thank you again, Michelle. I think that I am sharing the correct screen. And as Michelle said, I know that she would just love to be bombarded by questions, inquiries, suggestions, just all the things. So make sure that you blast her with emails. Thank you very much for coming here and sharing with us. Just as a reminder, some upcoming stuff that we have scheduled. So our early childhood recommendations panel meeting is November 18th, and that is 9 to 11:30. It's always live streamed on YouTube. So this panel, I know for a fact, we're going to have some updates about relief funding. So if you're interested to see kind of how that's going, you can watch that from the public site. We are always looking for content for the biweekly webinars. Our next biweekly webinar is November 16th, so 2 weeks from today. And then our early childhood meeting is going to be following the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund full meeting in the morning on December 2nd. So just our regular scheduled meetings coming up. But if you'd like to present on one of these webinars, like Michelle has, about something that you're involved in, especially we love to hear about just kind of the process and the grit that goes into standing these kinds of things up. So if you'd like to come and talk about your dream baby, then we would love to have you. And with that, we will see you in 2 weeks, and thanks for coming.